You have heard every one of these rules. Pay yourself first. Skip the latte. Never carry a credit card balance. Renting is throwing money away. Somebody said them with total confidence, so you filed them away as truth and never actually checked the math. Today we're checking the math. Every money rule you've ever been told, ranked from genius, the kind of advice that is basically guaranteed free money, all the way down to garbage, the kind of advice that sounds smart and is quietly making you poorer. By the end, you'll know exactly which rules to actually follow and which ones to delete from your brain immediately. Let's start at the top. S tier. Rules that are basically mathematical fact. S tier number 1. Get your full employer 401k match. If your company offers to match your retirement contributions and you are not contributing enough to get the entire match, you are turning down free money. Not pretty good money. Free money. If your employer matches 50 cents on the dollar up to a certain amount, that is an instant 50% return on your investment the moment you put it in, before the market even does anything. There is no investment on earth, none, that reliably pays 50% overnight. This is the single highest confidence financial move that exists, and yet a huge number of people leave it on the table every single year because nobody explained it clearly. S tier number 2. Pay yourself first. This means the moment your paycheck lands, a chunk goes straight into savings or investments, automatically, before you see it, before you can spend it. Everyone means to save what's left over at the end of the month. Almost nobody actually does, because there's always something else to spend it on. Automating the transfer removes willpower from the equation entirely. This isn't a clever trick. It's just removing yourself as the weak link. Now let's move to a tier. Excellent rules with one piece of nuance worth knowing. A tier number 1. Diversify. Don't bet everything on one stock. Spreading your money across many companies or simply owning a broad index fund instead of picking individual winners dramatically lowers your risk without giving up much long-term return. The evidence on this is about as strong as evidence gets in finance. Over long periods, the vast majority of people who try to pick individual winning stocks underperform a simple, boring, diversified fund that just owns a little of everything. The nuance is that diversification protects you from disaster. It doesn't guarantee you'll get rich fast. If you want excitement, that's what a small, separate amount of fund money is for, not your entire retirement account. A tier number 2. Build an emergency fund. 3 to 6 months of essential expenses, sitting somewhere safe and boring, not invested in stocks, just sitting there. This is genuinely great advice, because it's the difference between a surprise car repair being annoying and a surprise car repair putting you into high-interest debt. The nuance is the number isn't sacred. If your job is extremely stable, 3 months might be plenty. If your income is unpredictable, 6 months might not even be enough. The principle matters more than the exact number. A tier number 3. Avoid high-interest debt. Specifically credit card debt, sitting at 20, 25, sometimes 30% interest a year. At those rates, debt doesn't just sit there, it compounds against you, aggressively. This rule is correct almost all the time. The one asterisk is that not all debt is created equal. A mortgage at a reasonable fixed rate, or a student loan that got you a real income boost, is a completely different animal from a credit card balance you can't pay off. The rule should really be avoid high-interest debt, not avoid all debt, and a lot of people flatten it into the wrong version. Now we hit B tier. Rules that are reasonable starting points but get treated like gospel when they're really just rough guidelines. B tier number 1. The 50-30-20 budget rule. 50% of your income to needs, 30% to wants, 20% to savings and debt payoff. It's a fine framework if you've genuinely never budgeted before and need somewhere to start. The problem is the percentages are completely arbitrary. If you live somewhere with brutal rent prices, needs might eat 70% of your income no matter what you do, and that doesn't mean you're failing, it means the rule doesn't fit your situation. Treat it as training wheels, not a law of physics. B tier number 2. Buy a reliable used car instead of a new one. Generally smart, because new cars lose a huge chunk of their value the moment you drive them off the lot. But generally smart isn't always smart. A slightly older car with a known maintenance history can end up costing more in repairs than the depreciation you saved. The rule is really buy the car with the lowest total cost of ownership, used or new, and people who blindly always buy used sometimes end up worse off. Now, C tier. Popular advice that sounds responsible, but is often based on fear instead of math. B tier, number 3. Spend no more than 30% of your income on housing. This number has been repeated for decades, and for a lot of people in a lot of cities it's simply out of date. It was never a scientific formula, it came from old federal housing guidelines, and it doesn't adjust for the fact that rent in some cities has grown far faster than wages. If you live somewhere expensive, sticking rigidly to 30% might mean an hour and a half commute each way, which quietly costs you money and time anyway. The honest version of this rule is spend as little as you reasonably can on housing without wrecking your quality of life, and 30% is just a rough historical average, not a rule your budget owes obedience to. C tier, number 1. Never use a credit card, cash only. This one comes from a good place, avoiding overspending and debt. But used correctly, meaning paid off in full every single month, a credit card is not dangerous, it's a tool. It builds your credit score, which affects the interest rate you get on every future loan. It often comes with fraud protection cash doesn't have, and many cards return cash back on what you're already spending anyway. The rule shouldn't be avoid credit cards, it should be never carry a balance you can't pay off, which is a completely different, much more useful rule. C tier, number 2. A big tax refund means you did well. This feels like a win. It is not a win. A large refund means you overpaid the government all year, and they held onto your money, interest-free, and handed it back to you later with zero interest. That's not a bonus, that's an interest-free loan you gave to the government instead of investing it, or paying down debt, or just having it available when you needed it. The actual goal is to get your withholding as close to zero refund as possible, not to maximize the size of the check you get in April. And now, the bottom. F tier. Advice that isn't just unhelpful. It actively points you in the wrong direction. F tier, number 1. Skip the latte and you'll get rich. This is probably the most repeated piece of financial advice in the world, and it is almost entirely theater. A $5 coffee habit, even every single day, adds up to under $2,000 a year. Compare that to the actual reasons people struggle financially: housing costs, transportation, high interest debt, income that hasn't kept pace with inflation. Obsessing over coffee lets people, and sometimes financial advice itself, avoid the much bigger, much less comfortable conversation about the categories that are actually breaking the budget. F tier, number 2. Renting is always throwing your money away. Renting isn't throwing money away. Renting is buying flexibility and paying for shelter without taking on maintenance costs, property taxes, or the risk of the market moving against you. Buying a home can absolutely build wealth, but it comes with real costs that this rule conveniently forgets: interest on the mortgage, upkeep, closing costs, and the opportunity cost of a massive down payment that could have gone into the market instead. Whether renting or buying wins depends entirely on your specific numbers, your specific city, and how long you plan to stay. Treating it as a universal truth has pushed people into buying houses they couldn't actually afford, which is a much more expensive mistake than any amount of rent. F tier, number 3. You need to time the market to really win. Trying to buy low and sell high, guessing the exact right moments, sounds smart. It performs terribly, even for professionals who do it full-time with better information than you will ever have. The data, over and over, shows that investing a consistent amount on a consistent schedule and simply leaving it alone beats almost everyone who tries to be clever about the timing. The rule that actually works is boring: time in the market, not timing the market. But boring doesn't get clicks, so the exciting, wrong version keeps getting repeated. So here's the pattern running underneath every tier on this list. The S tier rules are simple, mathematical, and almost impossible to argue with. The lower you go, the more the advice trades accuracy for how satisfying it sounds. Skip the latte feels like control. Never use credit cards feels safe. Time the market feels smart. None of them are actually about the math. They're about a feeling. The real skill isn't memorizing rules. It's asking, every single time you hear one, does this actually hold up, or does it just sound good? Do that consistently, and you'll outmanage most of the financial advice you'll ever hear online, because most of it was never designed to be checked in the first place, only repeated. Notice something else too. The rules that survived the closest scrutiny, the ones sitting up in S and a tier, all have one thing in common: they're boring. Get the match. Automate the savings. Diversify. Keep some cash on hand. None of that makes a good headline. But the exciting version, the one that promises a shortcut, is almost always the version sitting near the bottom of this list. If this ranked something you believed for years, subscribe, because next time we're doing the purchases that are actually worth your money in your 20s and the ones that quietly aren't.